Number 10. Monokwa. The Monokwa is a terrifying creature with sharp edges who violently scratches off the faces of his victims and leaves them for dead. What it precisely looks like varies, but a common depiction describes it as like a hairy spider with soulless eyes. Spiders already have soulless eyes. Anyways. Though it sounds like the stuff of legend, in the early 2000s, the town of Kanpur, India blamed several attacks on the creature. Several people reported attacks at night and awoke with strange abrasions on their faces. But the strangest part is that they didn't remember anything before or after the attack. The Monokwa is known for attacking only at night, and strange blackouts also occurred in the town. Police as well as civilians became so convinced that the Monokwa was attacking their community that they led special searches at night. And then all at once the attacks stopped, though other parts of the country have had similar unexplained attacks. So is it real? Probably, I don't know. Number 9. Nishi-dak. Ever think you heard someone calling your name but no one is there? Well, if you do, make sure you wait until at least the 3rd time before you go looking. A Nishi-dak is a dark entity that lures travelers deep into the forest areas by making it sound like a loved one is calling to you. If curiosity gets the better of you, it will lead you to a deserted area away from help and reveal itself in a terrifying form. After that, you're done for. The Nishi-dak will devour you and you will have no chance of escape. But remember how I said to wait for the 3rd call? That's because it can only call out your name twice. So if the voices end after the 2nd call, then keep walking, as it's sure to be the Nishi-dak. Number 8. Nail-ba. I'm sure I'm not the only one who would be creeped out to hear a knock on my door far too late in the evening. A knock on my door in general is weird. Use the doorbell, or just, call first. Everybody texts to say you're here. When friends come over, they're like, I'm here, they never knock. It's weird to hear a knock in the first place. Anyways, if not for anything else but the Nail-ba. Her name was written on the doors and walls of small towns and villages in Bangalore to deter the spirit from entering. She is believed to be a dark demonic demon or spirit who walks the streets visiting people's houses. Some variations of the myth say that she is the spirit of a wandering bride seeking her husband. If you open the door to receive her, she will take the man of the house and bring bad luck to the household. Apparently she speaks in the voices of your friends and family in order to appear more trustworthy. Villagers write her name on the door to ward her off. Number 7. Boba. We've touched on sleep paralysis and the lore that surrounds it a bit on this channel, but for those who are unfamiliar, sleep paralysis is a common occurrence during what are called night terrors. Different from nightmares, which you can kind of shake yourself out of. Sleep paralysis is a state where your body remains entirely asleep but your mind is awake, so you're literally frozen where your eyes are just looking around. Imagine your dreams or your nightmares standing in your bedroom. Many people report seeing odd shadowy shapes and feeling a pressure on their chest, which could be the result of the boba. The boba is a dark shadowy entity that preys on those who sleep on their back. It strangles its victims to death while asleep and is said to be a paranormal explanation for sleep paralysis. Number 6. Bok. Do you have a fear of dark water or not being able to see the bottom of the water? I get that. It gets dark down there and anything could be lurking beneath us as we swim, even the bok. The bok is a grotesque creature who lurks near ponds and lakes and would do anything for a good meal of fish. The bok is a common belief in the state of Assam, where fishermen rarely fish at night without garlic or chilies on them, because that's the only way to ward them off. Otherwise, the bok will come from the water and disguise itself as a good friend. It'll be like, hey, what are you doing here? Let's walk. It will walk with you for a bit and then strike. Not only will it steal the catch of the day, it will either bury you in the ground or drag you beneath the depths of the water. Ooh. Terrifying, actually. That sounds awful. I hate that. I actually kind of always have that like weird imaginary moment when I'm walking by the ocean, but you didn't need to know that. Number 5. Vitalis. Vitalis are kind of like vampire-esque creature, except some gross extensions on their choice of cuisine. I always find this interesting that there are patterns around the world that kind of explain something. It's just interesting to me. They are dark creatures that live in cremation grounds and seek corpses to latch onto. They can leave vessels as they please, but while occupied, they must use their magic to fuel their host with blood. Legend says that a Vitala is created every time a child dies and isn't given the proper burial rites. Once the Vitala finds a body, it slithers inside, twisting the face in a way that makes the eyes turn into slits, and some say they resemble fruit bats. When the Vitala sucks blood from a living human, Moonlit allows the Vitala to live forever, but that doesn't mean it's done gorging itself. Number 4, Hiranyakashipu. Now let's talk about the king of demons, a proud, egotistical king who would stop at nothing until all kingdoms worshipped him. He wanted all to believe that he was the creator of the universe and that no one could control him, but even his own son refused to worship him. You could imagine that wasn't a very good look for an almighty ruler, so of course he tried to have his son killed. Every time he tried, he failed. Even when he asked his own sister to burn his son alive, he emerged unharmed. Vishnu protected him, and because the prideful god could not be killed by human, diva, or animal, Vishnu created a blend of creatures, creating something entirely different. It was called the Narasimha, and one day at twilight, he laid on the demon's lap and disemboweled him with his claws. Bye bye, king of demons. Enjoy storming the castle. Number 3, the Raktabija. Raktabija wasn't just one demon, but had the potential to be thousands all at once. If one drop of his blood hit the ground, another Raktabija would form, and worse than that, the creature would actually get more powerful when a new version of himself formed. As you can imagine, he was pretty hard to defeat. So the gods combined all of their power and created Kali, the destroyer of demons, a grotesque looking goddess decorated with bloody limbs. During their battle, of course, his blood poured onto the ground from his wounds, creating thousands of demons. But instead of letting the blood drop to the floor, Kali Mata pierced him and drank the blood flowing from her tongue. She drank every single drop until another army could no longer emerge. Number 2, Putana. Putana was an evil demon who was apt at taking the lives of the young wherever she could. When the god Krishna was just a baby, he was put on earth to help rid the world of demons. Upon hearing this, Putana disguised herself as a beautiful young woman, and nobody thought twice when letting her into the room. She laced her chest with poison so when she fed the babe, he would die, but the opposite happened. Krishna sucked the life force from her and she died in agony. Despite her intentions, Putana is also considered as a kind of foster mother to Krishna because she offered him milk. I don't know. Even though it was poisoned, she is also personified as an infantile disease or a bird symbolizing danger or warning of bad mothers. Number 1, Narakasura. Narakasura essentially belongs on every top 10 list we've ever done about evil killers. He was a demon king in Hindu mythology and ruled over Praxapuram, a cruel and ruthless killer. His people wished they could be free of him. One of the worst things he did was kidnap and torment 1,600 women just because he felt like it. He would also extend his bloodlust towards any who angered him or simply crossed his path. As a result of his cruelty, his people approached the god Krishna and begged him to intervene.
In our number 10 spot we have Sasquatch. Alright guys, there have been so many Sasquatch sightings over the years that I'm pretty sure he lives in our universe, but who knows, maybe he jumps between other universes. I could believe it. There was a crazy Sasquatch sighting off of a ski slope where at least 20 people stopped skiing to take a look at the giant hairy creature that looks just like every description of Sasquatch. Giant, about 8 to 10 inches, high, hairy, ape-like, living in the woods. Someone got it on film, but it's so far away that you can only make out how big it is, but none of its features. Its features were hidden behind a shadow. The people that saw it firsthand though swear that it's a Sasquatch. It is believed that Sasquatch is a human ancestor that never evolved the same way the rest of us did, which, I don't know, could be possible, but I think it came here from another universe, personally. Or perhaps another time. Maybe it walked through time somehow. Or if it came from another universe, maybe it came from a place where only Sasquatches exist. If you like this video, don't forget to smash that like button as it will really help us out. In our number 9 spot we have Nessie. Nessie has got to be real. There has gotta be magic left in this world. There has to be. I refuse to believe otherwise. Do you know how many sightings there have been of Nessie? Okay, fine, me either. But there have been many, like too many to count. There's a whole website dedicated to people sharing their sighting stories. My theory is though, it must live on another plane of existence and come down to ours every so often, or it's from a parallel universe and slips into ours. Or do you think it's possible that we get glimpses into other universes at times? Here is a video though, taken from the air that shows us a brief moment when perhaps Nessie visited our universe. This video is nuts because if you want to argue that the creature swimming is not Nessie, then what is it? A long-necked dinosaur that still exists? Perhaps a swimming giraffe? Like, come on. Nessie is real, y'all. This video is totally showing something. In our number 8 spot, we have the werewolf. Another mythological creature that might actually live in another parallel universe is the werewolf. Why? I don't know, because it feels like it should exist. Also, there have been sightings of it every so often, and it's always alone, so it's possible that it exists in our universe, but something makes me think that if it did, then why haven't we seen more than one? It would have had to reproduce somehow. Unless it can reproduce on its own, then perhaps I might believe it. Fun fact, a lot of species can actually reproduce via an immaculate conception. A turkey is one of them. Mind blown, I didn't know. Anyways, here's a very cool / interesting sighting of a werewolf that took place in Brazil in 2015. What's cool about this footage is that many people actually saw this creature and wrote about it online, and so it does give the picture some validity. He has long pointy ears, strange wolf-like legs, and has a small tail. The shot is blurry as it's night out, but you can still see that whatever it is, it's not human. You know what it reminds me of? Stranger Things. And the Demogorgon came from a parallel universe, so perhaps that's what this is. In our number 7 spot, we have the parking lot demon. Hey, demons are creatures too. I had to include this one on this list because this could be a demon or a ghost, but whatever it is, it's definitely not from our universe, or it's on another plane of existence and glitching into ours. So the story goes that years ago in Serbia, a woman was being chased by something in a parking lot. She was so scared that she went to the police to report it. The police reviewed the camera footage from the parking lot and discovered something insane. Yes, the woman was being chased, but whoever was chasing her was a transparent human. That's right, see-through. This was such a shock to the police that the story made it onto their local news. The footage is so wild to see that personally I think it makes you an instant believer after viewing it. Believer in something. Not necessarily demons or ghosts, but a believer that there is something magical out there that we don't know about yet. In our number 6 spot, we have mermaids. A mermaid is a mythological creature that is half human, half fish that is said to live in the sea. Under the sea. For centuries, people have believed in mermaids. Fishermen have recalled tales of seeing a fish that looked human, and of course they say that every story comes from some truth. Whether the story of the Little Mermaid actually came from a real sighting of a mermaid is up for debate. Some believe that mermaids exist but perhaps look different than what we would imagine them to be. There have been videos that fishermen have posted online of fish that could pass as mermaids, such as in this clip. This fish has 4 breasts, a big tummy, arms like a human, but has a shark-like head and mermaid-like fin for legs. So perhaps this could be a mermaid, it just doesn't have the long red hair and look as glamorous as Ariel. Regardless, the sea is a whole other universe that we haven't explored much of, so I bet you mermaids do exist. In our number 5 spot, we have gods and goddesses. Gods and goddesses have been worshipped and believed in since, well, the dawn of time. No, they are not mythical creatures, but they are mythical and needed to be on this list. Do you ever think about where the heck the stories about gods and goddesses perhaps came from? Did one person make them up and then others expanded on them? Perhaps. But what if none of them were made up? What if the story of Thor was channeled and it is really a story that took place in another parallel universe? It's definitely possible. There have been a few strange sightings of gods and goddesses over the years. There is one sighting of an eye in the clouds that people wondered if it was the eye of God. It's pretty wild to see, and I wonder what you think. Is this a pure coincidence that the clouds look like an eye, or perhaps is that the eye of God watching us, or a god watching us? In our number 4 spot, we have dragons. Dragons are mythical creatures that fly, have long tails, and breathe fire. They have long been cherished by the people of China, who on many occasions have said that they feel the spirit of them or have spotted them. There is a video that was once floating around the internet that would make you think that perhaps they are real. This video isn't confirmed to be real though, but if it is, aw, that's the cutest baby dragon ever. The second video, however, is for sure real, and it is honestly a bit frightening to see. Some think that's a dragon, and some think it's a god or Jesus. But honestly, it could very well be an alien too. Personally, I think dragons most likely exist as a whole in another universe, but it's possible that we may have 1 or 2 in our universe as well. Who knows? In our number 3 spot, we have the Loveland frog. Before this video, I had never heard of this mythical creature. This creature is essentially a giant humanoid that has qualities of a frog. Much to my surprise, there have been some sightings of this creature that definitely make you think, perhaps it is real. Not enough up close and personal sightings though. But perhaps this is another creature that is from another universe. Watch, there is another universe out there where all of these creatures live and no humans exist. Then we would be their mythical creatures. Here is some footage someone found of what looks to be a Loveland frog. It certainly looks like one to me. I would love to know your thoughts. In our number 2 spot, we have the Yeti. The Yeti is an ape-like being entity that people have spoken about as a mythical creature from Asia. No scientist has ever been able to get face to face with a Yeti, and so therefore it hasn't been officially classified as real. But just because we haven't gotten up close and personal with something doesn't mean that it is not real. Perhaps the Yeti has been hiding from humans. Perhaps the Yeti doesn't trust humans. Perhaps the Yeti is just from another universe. Well, not too long ago there were sightings of the Yeti, and here is a photo that someone captured of it running away. I feel like that is solid proof of the Yeti existing. Whether it is what we think it is, a creature more like a human but very tall, hairy, and not as evolved, that is the question. Perhaps it is not what we think it is at all. Perhaps it has magical powers and that is how it has stayed disguised all of this time. Or perhaps he goes back into his own dimension from time to time. Who knows? In our number 1 spot, we have fairies. If there is one mythical creature that I am personally obsessed with and would be very, very happy if it existed, it would be the fairy. All of my life I have been obsessed with the idea of them. In fact, all of my life people would say to me that I am very fairy-like. Of course they meant that my spirit reminds them of how movies have portrayed fairies, and so that's their understanding of what fairies are. Personally, I think it is very possible that fairies live among us, and most likely in Ireland. Did you know that it was once thought that the people of Atlantis came to Ireland as their continent was sinking, and so therefore some Irish people would be magical like the Atlanteans, and some believe that our idea of fairies are perhaps just these people that are from Atlantis. Very interesting thought. Perhaps they live in another dimension though, and that's why we can't see them. Or maybe they all went to a parallel universe. Honestly, we could wonder about this forever, and it is fun, but I suppose unless we develop a device that allows us to slip into other dimensions, then we will never really know. But it's sure fun to imagine.
Number 10. Dragons. Dragons have been part of mythology for a while, but they've also been a part of Christian legends. St. George himself, apparently he slayed a dragon. I can't even paintball, and this man took down a biblical dragon. Revelation 22, it reads, "And he seized the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. 1,000 years? I feel like we needed more time than 1,000 years. I don't know. What year is it again? We're due for a couple of dragons. Sleep in fear. Number 9, the second beast. Yeah, I know. I'll get to the first one later. You know how we do it here on YouTube. You won't believe number 4. Know what I mean? Revelation 13:11. Then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon, causing fire to come down from heaven to the earth in full view of the people. So there were a lot of witnesses. I'm sure that was quite jarring for every party involved. Also, it causes everybody, both small and great, rich and poor alike, you'll be marked by this demon. You'll be marked on your right hand or your forehead so that no one can buy or sell from you unless, they get rid of that mark. That's the name of the beast, or the number of its name. Revelation 13:16. Number 8, giants. Mentioned in Samuel 17:158. And there came out from the camp a champion named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits at a span. I'm 6'2", I don't know what that means, but that's pretty tall. He had a helmet of bronze on his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. Spoiler alert, Goliath fell to David, but there's a race of giants called the Amorites, and, well, they stepped in a bit. They're actually mentioned more than 80 times in the Bible. One description mentioned in Amos 2:9-10 paints quite the picture. Yet it was I who destroyed the Amorite before them, whose height was the height of the cedars, and he was as strong as the oaks. Yet I destroyed his fruit above and his roots beneath. Also it was I who brought you up from the land of Egypt, and led you 40 years through the wilderness to possess the land of the Amorite. That is quite the description. If somebody were to describe me, they'd be like, ah yes, Taylor, the height of that bush, and the strength also of that bush. Number 7. 4 beasts of Daniel. 4 beasts, that's a lot of beasts. It's like a foreign one here. The first was like a lion and it had eagle wings. Quote, that as I watched, its wings were plucked off and I was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a human being. And a human mind was then given to it. Daniel 7:4. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty intimidating thing to see. These entities are described as a lion with eagle wings, and there's also a bear, there's also a leopard, and this 4th beast that's still a complete mystery. So there you go, fill in the blanks yourself. The bear has 3 ribs in its mouth also, between its teeth. It's very scary to look at. The leopard also has wings as well as 4 heads. So it's like 8 beasts in total. It's like 8, we got like 13 now. How many heads are we counting here? Heads or bodies? Like how are we counting them? The mysterious 4th beast is apparently full of horns, and it's got iron teeth and 10 horns protruding out from it. So it's full of horns and it's got more horns. All the horns. The beast symbolizes the great 4 kingdoms, but the ribs and the teeth thing, that's gonna be in my head rent free. That's really scary. Number 6, the Nephilim. The Nephilim are demigods. They were described, of course, as being gigantic in size, and in Genesis 6:1-4, they're mentioned as such. When people began to multiply on the face of the ground, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that they were fair, and they took wives for themselves of all that they had chose. Then the Lord said, my spirit shall not abide in immortals forever, for they are flesh. Their days shall be 120 years. Again, awfully high, maybe 80s, that's okay with me. 120, I don't want to limp to my death. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God went into the daughters of humans, who bore children to them. So these sons of God, these fallen ones, many believe are not the greatest. They're fallen sons like Lucifer, that kind of thing, you know what I mean? Number 1333, there's a passage that says, and there we saw the Nephilim, and we seemed to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seemed to them. Yeah, giants, we're grasshoppers, with Lucifer in the picture, no thanks. I've never felt smaller, if I'm being honest, or scared. Number 5, the Leviathan. Isaiah 27:1, quote, in that day the Lord will punish Leviathan the fleeing serpent with his fierce and great and mighty sword, even Leviathan the twisted serpent, and he will kill the dragon who lives in the sea. Yeah, we're talking about sea monsters now. This one has more than 1 head, again, as do most on this list. The Leviathan is a beast of chaos, specifically. It was defeated at the hands of God, and once upon a time, Sir Humphrey Gilbert saw a beast in the sea that had a lion's head. What do you know? Could it be? Many biblical verses mention said Leviathan. I will not fail to speak of Leviathan's limbs, its strength and its graceful form. Who can penetrate its double coat of armor? Who dares open the doors of its mouth, ringed about with fearsome teeth? Its back has rows of shields tightly sealed together. Yeah, if this was a boss in Zelda, I wouldn't win this battle. This is a hard, I've never heard something described so fiercely in my entire life. Number 4, the first beast. Welcome, told you we'd do it. Number 4, you won't believe it, let's do it. We talked about the second beast, so, you know, in Quentin Tarantino fashion, we gotta do the first one afterwards, get you caught up. The first one, literally the first beast, is referred to in Revelation 13:1-2. And I stood upon the sands of the sea, and I saw a beast rise out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. There's actually 2 of these monsters. This one has 7 heads and 10 horns. This beast was once a great king, but before it could rule, it was cast into perdition. There's many who believe that this first beast is a literal antichrist. Number 3, vampires. Remember when Edward said to Bella in the woods, say it. And then she's like, vampire. That and Robin Williams' Jack, both really emotional on the soul. Well, it turns out vampires were real. Vampires were mentioned in around 50 verses from the Bible. Now, of course, this is an ongoing argument because, well, obviously we want to know if they're real, but the verse goes as such. There are those whose teeth are swords, whose fangs are knives, and they're to devour the poor from the earth, the needy from among mankind. Now, many believe, of course, it's not actual capes floating and turning into a bat vampire, and rather just the wealth of the people that's being devoured, you know. But I don't know, sea monsters, locusts, multiple heads with multiple horns, I don't know. It sounds like vampires would be the least of our concerns. Number 2, plagues. We grew up studying medieval plagues, but did we ever imagine that we'd live through one like we did the past few years? Who could have predicted any of that? Why, the Bible. Of course, it was there all along. That's why we're here, right? Does it hold any clues to our impending doom? Has it been right before? Revelation 6 and Matthew 24 both foresee this pandemic hitting before the return of one Jesus Christ. So, I don't know. Maybe there's a silver lining. And he's got an excellent beard. He's due to arrive any minute now. And finally, number 1. locusts. We saw these in 2016, just floating about. God, that was terrifying. This is Revelation 9:3-10. The Bible is home to some strange events, otherwise, terrifying. And then from the smoke came locusts on the earth, and they were given power like the power of scorpions of the earth. They were allowed to torment them for 5 months, but not to kill them. And their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it stings someone. In appearance, the locusts were like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were what looked like crowns of gold, and their faces were like human faces. Well, that's terrifying. That's a scary, scary passage. I'm not coming for your beliefs in any way, shape, or form in this entire video, but that is jarring to imagine. Don't sin or you'll get locusts with human faces sent to fly your way. Awesome. Among the 10 plagues in the Bible, this one sounds like it's perhaps the worst because, well, I don't like bugs. 5 months of torment caused by pit locusts. This could happen. I'm not trying to alarm anybody, but back in 2016, locusts covered over 270,000 square miles in Russia. Just out of nowhere, just hundreds of thousands of locusts. Now, none of them had human faces, but it still sucked nonetheless.
Number 10. Hombre Caiman. Originating from Colombia, El Hombre Caiman's legend is one that's a little weird. See, Saul Montenegro was a bit of a peeping Tom, and his favorite spots to do so was the Magdalena River. Fearing being revealed, he visited a witch and bought a potion that would allow him to turn into an alligator. Given 2 potions, the first was to turn him into his newly bescaled form, while the second was to turn him back to his usual pervy self. His system continued to his pleasure for a while, with a friend carrying the second potion and distributing it at Montenegro's leisure. However, one day the friend made a mistake, frightened by the alligator form, and dropped the reversal potion into the water. Now, some of it did land on Montenegro, just enough to turn his torso back into the form of a man, but his legs remained those of the alligator, and so he remained, eternally hunted like the freak he was. Number 9. Encantado. A strange group of pink dolphins that is said to be located within the Amazon. These little weirdos are generally helpful to fishermen, with some claiming they even hold power over local weather. They're even professed to aid people that are drowning, but for all their good deeds, they do hold a pretty nasty little secret. See, the Encantado are profess to be capable of changing their form, turning into men once a year at Festa Junina. Wearing hats to conceal their blowholes, these handsome gentlemen join the festival where they seduce local women, and then proceed to leave them with a child that they won't be planning to raise. Ew. Number 8. El Cuero. A cousin of the similarly shaped Weke Weke, this horrible monstrosity is professed to hide in lakes, floating on the water's surface. With a spotted hide, it's generally easy to mistake this creature for a discarded cow's hide, but it's best not to be fooled. Concealed beneath the skin are a collection of teeth, stalked eyes, claws that line the edges of the hide, and a mouth that can extend to better consume its prey. There are even some reports that claim El Cuero can use weaponry, mostly knives and anything else its quarry might have been carrying. Supposedly, El Cuero is particularly fond of drinking blood, a number of its teeth being fangs. With all of that in mind, it's pretty safe to say that if you see a cowhide floating on a lake, you should just leave it alone. Even better, just leave. Number 7. Maricoxi. You know, with every culture in the world having some kind of variation on the Bigfoot legend, maybe it's time we started taking them a little bit seriously. However, the Maricoxi aren't just content to blurrily walk in front of cameras. Supposedly found by Percy Fawcett in an expedition to the Amazon in 1914, the Maricoxi were reported to live near the Muksubi tribe. Upon sighting Fawcett, they reportedly made overtures of diplomacy, but negotiations crumbled as Fawcett claimed to have been threatened with a bow. They opened fire on the Maricoxi, who responded in kind. Probably would have just been better to leave them alone, you feel? Number 6. Tapir Iwara. Occasionally referred to as water jaguars, these strange creatures appear to be hybrids between tapirs and jaguars. Roughly the size of a cow, they're estimated to be carnivores, though attacks on humans are rare. Social creatures, the tapir Iwara defend each other when threatened. Sometimes they're hunted due to being viewed as pests, though this is dangerous as one of their strangest defensive abilities is their ability to steal the soul of any who approach them. Reportedly, victims have developed mental illness and symptoms of malaria after just simply seeing or smelling the tapir iwara. The soul can be returned so long as a professional shaman does it, but some claim that smelling salts can be enough to get the job done. Number 5. Sasi. Generally considered to be a bit of a pain in the neck, Sasi is a one-legged man wearing a red cap and smoking a pipe. Originally from the Tupi-Guarani mythology, Sasi is generally known to reside within dust devils, and is commonly attributed with their creation. There are multiple versions of Sasi, and he's known to be able to even turn invisible or shapeshift into a large bird to escape capture. When given a chance, Sasi will cause mischief in just about any way he can, hiding toys, keeping popcorn from popping, dropping rakes where people will step on them. It's generally stated that if something goes wrong, 9 times out of 10 it's because Sasi thought it'd be funny. That being said, he can be captured whether with a rosary, a bottle, or even just by stealing his red cap. From there, he might become a friend. But if he's treated poorly, you better watch out. Number 4. Yakumama. With the name Mother of Water, this massive serpent supposedly resides within the Amazon rainforest. Attributed with the birthing of all creatures in the famed Amazon River, Yakumama is known to hunt by ingesting massive amounts of water, which it then spits at its prey. The sheer force enough to knock out the victim, who will then be ingested by the serpent's leisure. Supposedly, if one decides to fish in any river and they see an unbelievable bounty of fish within its waters, they must blow a conch horn before engaging in their hunt. The Yakumama will then reveal itself if it's nearby, its plot foiled and the fisherman given a chance to escape. The whims of Yakumama are strange indeed, as unlike most reptiles, it doesn't always consume its prey, sometimes simply frightening them to the point where they run away, though why it does this remains to be seen. Number 3. Wallapen. A Chilean creature, the wallapen resides mostly within lakes and rivers. With the body of a sheep, the head of a cow, and flipper-like feet, this creature is supposedly capable of inducing miscarriages upon sight alone. While harmless on land, wallapen are famously violent when encountered in their natural habitat. Even stranger still, they appear to be capable of mating with both cows and sheep, which does at least explain their bizarre appearance. Some believe that they might be the source of, or a possibly younger version of El Cuero, the wallapen potentially shedding its skin, which might then be taken on by or transform into El Cuero. Regardless, these creatures are just another reason why I won't be taking a dip in any rivers anytime soon. Number 2. The Headless Mule. We don't need a headless horse, man. We've got a headless horse, man. Supposedly a curse inflicted upon a sinning woman, this creature only appears between the evenings of Thursday and the mornings of Friday. It sprints between parishes, spewing flames from its neck and stopping for almost nothing as its path eventually leads to the location where its sin was committed. Supposedly, pricking the mules with a needle can temporarily stop the curse, as can tying her to a cross, but the only way to remove the curse for good is for someone to marry her. All one needs to do to avoid being trampled is to lie down and cover oneself with nails, teeth, or anything else that might shine. This will render the victim mostly invisible to the mule, who may then leave peacefully. Number 1. Patasola. Appearing as a one-legged woman, the similarities with Sasi end just about there. Her origins can vary, but usually relate to some infidelity or act of cruelty committed before her death. When resurrected, a Patasola will begin her hunt, and is deeply protective of nature and those within. While she is known for generally just causing mischief, her grievances are more squarely aimed at hunters and loggers, interfering with their work the most. Luring her prey into the forest, Patasola then drains them of their blood, and is known to be able to shapeshift into a dog or a cow. She's also famed for singing from the treetops when she's completed a hunt.
Starting us off with number 10 is the skunk ape. Late at night, a driver stopped to pee in an undeveloped area. His sister in the car claimed someone's coming as he heard branches snapping in the woods next to them. He looked up to see a dark-colored 7 to 8 foot animal running towards him. As he got into the car and sped away, they saw the giant beast watching them leave. That was the first ever account of someone seeing the skunk ape back in 1989. Known to be Florida's own version of the Sasquatch, and countless people have sent in descriptions and reports of seeing the beast, and they all match up. The thing is bipedal but walks with a bit of a hunch, and as you might have guessed, it's very much a carnivore. The worst bit about this one is that a photo was sent in to the Sarasota sheriff in 2000 of the beast, and it looks like something out of your worst nightmares. Apparently the anonymous person was leaving treats out for it to make it come back. Like, mate, it's a skunk ape, not a cute little fox or something to leave treats out for. Cut that out. Stop leaving treats. Jeez. Coming in at number 9 is the Maryland Goat Man. The title of this article was "Goats Shouldn't Walk on Two Legs," and I 100% agree with that. They shouldn't. Yet somehow one is. Legend has it the Maryland Goat Man is a half-man, half-goat creature who roams the forest of Beltsville with an axe. And there's two versions of his origin story. The first is that a man who kept goats went completely mad after a bunch of teenagers killed his flock. The incident made him bloodthirsty for revenge. But why would a bunch of teenagers kill goats? Like, what would they even get out of that? Is that what the teens are doing these days? Shocking. Shocking. Now the second story is that a scientist was conducting experiments on a goat with human DNA and things went horribly wrong, thus turning the goat into a half-man, half-goat beast. The legend gained a lot of publicity in the 50s, 60s and 70s when a huge German shepherd was found cleanly decapitated in the forest. People have reported seeing him for decades now, and I honestly believe them. But also, if it was created way back when, shouldn't it be dead by now? Like, what's the lifespan of a goat, you guys? Surely it's time has come, surely. At number 8 we have the Demon of Dartmoor. Now legend has it, and it's not even legend, eyewitness reports say that the demon is a massive four-legged hairy beast with glowing eyes. It's said to have a thick shaggy coat, round ears, and the limbs of King Kong. Exaggeration there, a little bit, but they are strong enough to tear straight through human flesh, so how much was I really exaggerating? Really? Over the years, people have thought it was a large wild cat or dog. Some think it's a bear or Wolverine. I didn't even know Wolverine was real. A falconer who stood 200 meters away from the demon said size-wise it's like a miniature pony and it moved like a feline but reminded him of a bear. Can that description give off any more mixed signals? Seriously. The founder of the National Research Network, Big Cats, even said this thing is definitely not a wild cat or a dog. He went on to say he saw a collie-sized cat in the area 10 years prior, but the Demon of Dartmoor is a lot bigger than that, so that's just great. The picture I saw of it makes it look like a mix of a gorilla, a boar, and my ex. Filling our number 7 slot is the Faceless. I feel like I just named a new species of people, like the Faceless. But anyway, this story comes from a member of the Philippine Marine Corps, and he said he went out on patrol after his unit received information about an enemy sighting. After 3 days of camping around bushes in the jungle and forests nearby, they found a figure in the distance. They started approaching the figure slowly, but the closer they got, the more the horror really set in. The person wasn't walking, they seemed to be floating, and that wasn't even the worst part. It was dressed like a normal living person, but it had no face. The soldier went on to say it was like the face of the person had been erased. Its skin was so pale it was almost translucent, like all its blood had been drained. It had bullet wounds all throughout its chest, and at one point it looked straight into the soldier's rifle scope, and the soldier claimed he had never been that scared in his life. Keep in mind this man is on the battlefield, so you can well imagine the fear. Now I'm assuming the soldier saw the ghost or apparition of a dead soldier who had probably bled out from their bullet wounds, but the whole erased face thing is a complete mystery to me. Do you guys have any ideas? Let me know below. Now at number 6 is question mark. Honestly, I'm about to tell you the experience of a hunter in a forest who wasn't even sure what he saw, so how am I even meant to label this one? The man was in the deepest parts of the woods near a lake, and he'd hunted many times before, but this time things just felt off. For some odd reason he felt like he was being watched, but he tried to just brush it off regardless. He was sat in a tree stand when he heard the howl of a huge creature making its way across the thicket. He initially thought it was just a group of wild hogs, but he realized all the howling was coming from one thing. The creature was moving slowly, it was remaining out of sight, and it was moving through the lake. Mind you, the lake was about waist high on the hunter, so you can imagine just how large this creature was. It was advancing slowly and silently through the water and then dashed into the thicket. The hunter didn't actually manage to see the creature, but when he came back a few days later to get his bag, he found deep claw marks on the tree he'd been using, and his bag was gone. And that's all he wrote. Coming in at number 5 is The Witch. Now personally, I think this one is 100% fake. It seems like special effects to me, but you guys can decide for yourselves. Now this video was uploaded by YouTuber True Chooser back in 2010, and it shows a dirt road with woodland on each side of it. In the middle of the road up ahead is this dark grey creature sitting on the ground. Like the body looks clearly human, except its fingers are creepily long and thin, and as the cameraman gets closer, the thing turns around and you can see it's a female with long hair and dark facial features. And then the video just conveniently ends. First of all, if that was real and you saw that sliding across the road, why would you get that close to it? Surely the natural thing to do would be just to stay in your car and maybe run it over. I don't know. Apparently the witch is from the game Left 4 Dead, and I'm pretty sure it is. Good try, True Chooser, but not good enough. At number 4 is the Michigan Dogman. Why are there so many hybrid human-animal creatures lurking around? I mean, I'm not mad at it, but is it a cause for concern? Maybe. The first ever sighting of the Michigan Dogman was in 1887 when 2 lumberjacks claimed to have seen a massive creature that had the body of a man and the head of a dog. Countless sightings of the beast have been reported for years, and the creature is usually blamed for the death of pets and horses. A photo was submitted by a boy who was just sitting in the back of his parents' minivan, and it's blurry, but you can definitely make out it's an animal of some kind, and it looks massive. If anything, I feel like the head looks like a massive tiger's head rather than a dog's. I don't know which dog looks like that honestly, but it does look bipedal for sure. A sighting in 1977 happened where 2 brothers were biking near Manistee National Forest, and one got left behind, and as he turned around, he saw a face covered in black fur watching him from behind a tree. But the face was a good 7 feet off the ground, and as soon as they made eye contact, the creature ran away. The brother followed him and noticed dark red bands of colored fur on both of his ankles, and I love how this thing could probably take him in a 1v1, but it just ran away scared. I sensed the dogness in him. Maybe he just wanted a friend. Filling our number 3 slot is the Donkey Lady. I've read about a lot of legends. Now I've read a lot of legends in my time here at Top 10, but I've never actually encountered this one, originating in San Antonio, Texas. In the 50s, a woman was really badly burnt in a house fire, and I'm talking 3rd-degree burns everywhere. Her face was disfigured and her toes and fingers burnt off completely, making her feet and hands look like hooves. On top of that, if that wasn't bad enough, both of her children were killed in the fire as well, which was the last straw for the woman, and I'm really not surprised. She slowly descended into madness. Locals in town decided to banish her for her crazy rantings, and she went and lived under an old stone bridge located off Applewhite Road. The bridge is between 2 forests or woodland areas where she usually hides and then attacks passerbys. I mean, should I be saying creature? Would she be a ghost by now? I have no clue. Anyone living in San Antonio, have you witnessed this? Let me know in the comments below. Now at number 2 is the Hodag. Now this one came from Wisconsin folklore and is meant to be a small but fierce animal, quite like myself. Found in forests and caves alike, according to an 1893 newspaper report, it was said to have the head of a frog, the face of a giant elephant, short legs with huge claws, the back of a dinosaur, and a spear-headed tail. I don't even get how you can fit an elephant's face on a frog's head, like surely the proportions just aren't possible. Claims about the beast were made by land surveyor and local prankster Eugene Shepard, who gathered a group of people to capture the beast. They said they used dynamite to kill it, and pictures of the charred remains were given to the media. I mean, are we gonna believe unreliable source Eugene? Are we not? It apparently went extinct after its main source of food, or white bulldogs, became scarce in the area. And finally, at number 1 is the Wendigo. Now this is a supernatural beast that comes from Algonquin First Nations folklore in Canada. Woohoo, Canada! They live in forests and other wooded areas, but the first thing you'll find out about a Wendigo is that they're a cannibalistic monster that eat and kill anything in their path. In the legend, Wendigos come to be when humans are overtaken by greed or when they're weakened by extreme conditions like cold or hunger. They're known to infect communities and people with the purest form of evil. Miss me with that. Looks wise, they vary. Some are known to be extremely thin, with their skeletons pushing out of their ashy mummy-like skin. Other stories say they're giants who become bigger the more they eat. Their ears are pointed, or they sometimes have antlers coming out of their head, and their eyes are like sunken black holes of death. certified. They're known to have certain powers, like their senses are heightened to like vampire from Twilight level. They have superhuman strength and stamina that lets them stalk their prey for weeks if they have to, just like the vampires from Twilight. They can move at the speed of the wind and can walk over deep snow or water without sinking, so far the Wendigo is looking like a Cullen. In terms of killing them, you can kill them with a gun or a bat, but more complicated stories about it claim you have to cut its heart out and melt it in a fire. And I mean, good luck getting close enough to it to cut its heart out. Honestly, it'll most likely cut your heart out before you even get that far, so I mean, pick your battles.
At number 10, we have a siren head. If you are lost in a rural area, keep an eye out. You could be the target of a murderous siren head. It is 40 feet tall as a telephone pole with dried and mummified skin. It is said to stalk and murder its victims as it roams around graveyards, woods, and rural towns. Its targets are usually lost travelers, people out for a hike, and sometimes even children. To lure victims towards it, it uses powers to mimic. Just like its name, it can mimic sirens, but also news broadcasts and even people's conversations. The siren head can use sounds of a conversation between a victim's loved ones to bring in their prey. If you get close, you probably won't be able to get away, as it can run up to 240 miles per hour. That's faster than any car I've ever had. And also, to hide from hunting eyes, it can shapeshift into a tree or a tall pole. So the first sighting of the siren head happened in 1966. A family was on vacation in Arizona and took a photo on a Polaroid. It says Arizona Desert Family Vacation 1966, and that's written on the back of the photo. But let's move on to number 9, a skinwalker. This creature is from Navajo folklore. They often get mistaken for werewolves, but are much, much worse. They can shapeshift into almost any animal and wear the skin of the animal they turn into. That element of wearing the skin is where their name comes from. In addition to this, they can mimic the sound of any animal or human and are said to even be able to take a hold of you. If you make direct eye contact with a skinwalker, they can put their essence into your body and control it. And you just don't know what's going on. No. So for a person to transform into a skinwalker, they kill a close family member. Once they transform, they gain stamina, strength, and speed. They are another incredibly fast creature with a running speed of up to 200 miles per hour, still faster than any car I've ever had. So when they wear the skin of an animal, it's especially creepy because many people share stories of encountering what they think are wild animals. But then the animals run away on their back 2 legs as if they are possessed by something else. A skinwalker. At number 8, we have a skunk ape, aka Florida's Foot. So these creatures were first seen in Dade County, Florida in the 60s and 70s. They are said to roam in whole packs through Florida's evergreen forests. And they run upright on 2 legs. They are an unknown species of ape that have black fur and glowing red eyes. Their namesake comes from the foul smell the creature gives off. Some people say the smell is like if you would mix the smell of a skunk and a wet dog together. Not good. But there is even an official skunk ape headquarters in Okopee, Florida, and it houses attractions and merchandise. Part of it even houses the stories of Dave Shealy, a man who tried to hunt the skunk ape for 30 years. He tried to get it recognized and documented as a species to no avail. There are still rumors that the skunk ape may have a taste for the meat of humans, since people disappear in South Florida swamps every now and again. Is it the swamp, or is it the skunk ape? But another creature, number 7, the Wendigo. So the Wendigo, or sometimes pronounced Wendigo, has been talked about as having the power to curse humans by possessing them. This leads to the rough translation of Wendigo as the evil spirit that devours mankind. It stems from indigenous folklore, and the Wendigo is a cannibalistic creature that would strike during cold winters when food would run short and an intense hunger would take over. Wendigo are now described as a creature with a hunger that can't be satisfied, as it takes to continuously stalking the woods for hunters and travelers. While their thirst for blood can't be stopped, however much they eat doesn't change their physical form. They are extremely thin to the point that their skeleton nearly pierces through their skin. They smell like death and decay because if one finds you, that's what's likely to become of you. At number 6, the Chupacabra. So this creature was first recorded in March of 1995. Ever since then, it has been reported all over the Americas. It's mainly been reported in southwestern United States, Mexico, and Puerto Rico. Its direct Spanish translation is the goat sucker. This is from its reputation for feeding on livestock by draining their blood. Kind of vampiric if you ask me. So a chupacabra is the size of a small bear, but people say it could be some sort of ape. A definitive trait of its looks is the row of spines that protrudes from its neck to the base of the tail. Other hypotheses of where it comes from are that it is an extraterrestrial, an unknown species of reptile, or a surviving dinosaur. Whatever it is, I don't want to cross its path whenever it's feeling particularly hungry. I like my blood in my body. At number 5, Nyarlathotep. So this creature is a monster that appears in the works of H.P. Lovecraft as well as Auguster Leth. He is one of the cosmic outer gods. You wouldn't want to run into this bad boy since he can shapeshift into over 1,000 different forms. When Nyarlathotep puts on a human guise, it's usually an Egyptian pharaoh, but it could be others. As a smooth talker that uses propaganda, he amasses followers really easily. The followers then lose a sense of the world around them and are used to achieve this monster's cruel goals. He is deceptive and manipulative, and definitely a foe you do not want to face. At number 4, a Demogorgon. So you must admit that the Demogorgon that was featured in Stranger Things is not something you ever want to come across. Even in mythology, a Demogorgon is a god or demon associated with the underworld. Its name is even taboo. The other names it is referred to are the monster and man with no face. In Stranger Things, we see the monster as a thin humanoid creature. Its limbs are elongated and the arms end in claws. The skin is slimy, and don't get me started on its face. It appears featureless at first, but when it opens its full face mouth, you can see rows and rows of teeth. The abilities of a Demogorgon in mythology include interdimensional travel, strength, telekinesis, blood detection, regenerative healing, and durability. At number 3, the Dullahan. So the Dullahan is the Irish headless horseman, also called Gan Cian. It's also called Gan Cian, which also means without a head in Irish. He is said to have lost his head from it being blown off by a cannon, but it's never too far from him. He carries it by his side in his arm. Its head isn't even useless because it's said to have supernatural sight. The Dullahan can lift his head up in the darkness of night and see into the houses of those who are dying. He rides on his horse using a spine as a whip, and only when he stops is someone doomed to die. He takes the souls of those ready for death by saying their name aloud. The person named immediately dies. Had to include an Irish one because represent. Yeah. At number 2, the Slipmouth Woman, aka Kuchisikana. She got the cut on her face from her husband who slashed her face with a sword. So now she goes after others with scissors. The Slipmouth Woman comes when you aren't expecting her. She will come find you and ask you a question, and you better hope you know the right answer, or can give the right one if there is one. She is said to wait in the shadows until you cross her path, and she will appear in front of you as a woman wearing a surgical mask, but that is just there to hide what is behind it. She will ask you, "Am I pretty?" and you won't even have enough time to answer before she lowers the mask. Beneath it is her mouth that has been slashed into a disturbingly large grin that exposes her teeth and tongue. She will ask another question, "Am I pretty now?" And this is where you have to measure your reaction. If you say yes or scream, she will cut your face to match hers. But if you say no, it could be worse. If you say no, she will let you walk away, but she will be watching you, following you home until you think you are safe asleep, and then she will kill you. So maybe you could try to run, but she is quick and may just kill you for it. Is there a solution? Seems like not, unfortunately. Well, let's move on to number 1, Slender Man. The Slender Man is an urban legend and mythical entity that lives out in the woods. He is very tall with long and slender arms and legs. Some have said that he wears a suit and tie, while others say he is more of a tree-like figure with tentacles up to 12 feet long. Either way, he is a being to be feared. His typical targets are children, and he has been photographed lurking behind large groups of them. After abducting children, he leaves notes. Those who speak about the Slender Man in a suit say he used to be a normal person before he became something else. With willowy proportions, he appears to float, indicating he may be ethereal now. Whatever powers he has, he uses, as he uses his outstretched arms to put victims into a hypnotized state. Once they are helpless and under his control, he has his victims walk into him, and who knows what happens to them when they are in there. And I sure don't want to find out.
The Goat Man terrorizes us at number 10. Can you guys think of anything scarier, than meeting a creature that had a head and legs of a goat, but had the body of a human? Is this real life right now? Well, what if I told you guys that the Goat Man is also notorious for carrying around a large axe? I mean, seriously? Well, as it turns out, it might be real. According to this legend, the Goat Man was created by a scientist whose experiment went horribly wrong. He transformed into half man, half billy goat. And I guess he didn't like what he saw in the mirror because he took out his rage on people with an axe. This legend took off in 1971, and now people are saying that the Goat Man wanders around in the woods. And he's looking for any living creatures to torment with a sharpened axe. And maybe he just wants dinner. Climbing into our list at number 9, we have the Skunk Ape. Yeah, I'll be the first one to say it. His name doesn't really sound that appealing at all. It sounds pretty smelly. Well, apparently these monsters are known for having a really bad stench, and they can supposedly be found lurking in Florida. Well, sorry about that, Florida, for you guys watching over there. Well, the skunk ape is said to be about 7 feet tall and looks like a gorilla that smells 100 times worse. Sightings of the skunk ape date back to the 1940s, but in 2000, a sheriff's department received an anonymous letter that had several pictures of the smelly monster wandering around at night. Oh, and there is also this footage. So what do you guys think? Could this be a real life skunk ape? Bigfoot comes stomping on this list at number 8. Yeah, that's right. We have an oldie but a goodie. Honestly, some people are quick to write off Bigfoot as nothing more than an old urban legend, but I bet most of you would be horrified if you actually saw this 15-foot hairy beast coming close to your campsite.
Seriously, look how big it is. I don't think it is a human. I think it's a
There are actually a ton of reports of people seeing a Bigfoot wandering around North America for at least a century. So, I mean, how can this one be made up? Is no one else concerned that there might actually be a giant hairy ape man bulldozing through our forests? There was even a website dedicated to documenting every sighting that happened in each state. Giant apes used to exist in the past, so it could be plausible that maybe they never went extinct. And judging by the unexplainable footprints and other Bigfoot evidence that we've stumbled upon, I'm not ready to rule anything out. Flying into number 7 on our list, we have the Thunderbird. Most people say that the Thunderbird is just a mythological creature from Native American folklore. But then again, how can we be so sure? The Thunderbird is so large and strong, people used to say that it can carry a whale in their talons. And because of its size, lots of people are arguing that the Thunderbird couldn't exist in our time without being seen. Well, I guess it's hard to miss something, that large. But what if the Thunderbird was real and he just went extinct? It's definitely something that I would have to see to believe.
This is an actual bird or a large child in a...
Biting into our number 6 spot, we have the Chupacabra. The legend of this monster first began over in Puerto Rico in the late 1990s. People said that he's about 5 feet tall, he has large black eyes, spikes running down its back, and he has a very sharp long claw. The Chupacabra is blamed for literally sucking the life out of its livestock because it enjoys drinking the blood from unsuspecting animals.
Mysterious Chupacabra, an elusive animal said to feed off the blood of livestock. Well, that question has residents in Nelson County buzzing after a farmer captures the unusual animal.
If this is real, who's to say that he won't try to suck the blood from us, from humans? Flying into number 5, we have the Mothman. If you're having problems picturing what this might look like, because I'm thinking like the Mothman, a man with like butterfly wings. Well, this is what it looks like. We have a giant terrifying human with glowing red eyes and wings. Now that I think about it, the Mothman kind of sounds like a demon. Back in 1966 in West Virginia, lots of people started reporting seeing the Mothman in the flesh. Everyone described him, the exact same way, and for months, more and more people reported sightings, but they all suddenly just stopped in December of 1967. So did the Mothman become extinct, or is he just hiding himself a lot better? But wait, get this. Before the last reporting, a bridge in the US cracked, which sent dozens of cars to fall in the river. When the bridge fell, 46 people died, and the deaths were immediately connected to the Mothman because, well, people saw a strange large creature with wings and red eyes right before the bridge collapsed. I mean, coincidence? Maybe, but maybe not. The Jersey Devil breaks his way onto this list at number 4. Well, let me show you guys a picture of what the heck I am talking about. Is this real life right now? This ugly monster is said to have the wings of a bat, the face of a horse, and the tail of a lizard. So yeah, it's safe to say that you would never want to run into this hideous creature in a dark alley, but if you live in New Jersey, that might be a scary reality for you. Oh, and yeah, let's not forget about the small arms with sharp claws, creepy hooves, and his forked tail. People who have apparently seen the Jersey Devil have said that he moves really fast and he is capable of yelling a high-pitched, blood-curdling scream. Should I demonstrate what that scream sounds like? No, I don't want your ears to start bleeding. Number 3, we have the bunyip. Don't be fooled by its name. It actually might sound like a cute variation of a bunny, but trust me, this thing will haunt your worst nightmares. No one knows exactly what the bunyip looks like, but everyone knows that they should avoid it at all costs. It's known to swallow children and livestock whole if they get too close to the edge of the water. This creature is an aquatic mammal, and it will release a loud shriek right before it pounces on its victim and devour them. The bunyip was reportedly spotted in Australia by Aboriginals, and it was last seen in the mid-1800s. Some people who think that this is just a hoax have gone too close to the riverbed and they were never seen or heard from again. So would you guys want to risk it? I don't think so. Up next, number 2, we have the Dover Demon. This creepy guy is a really famous cryptid that has been spotted around Dover, Massachusetts. He's being described as a gray or white creature that has large glowing eyes and abnormally long fingers. He can walk on 2 feet, but as creepy as it might sound, he prefers running on all 4s. The first sighting was in 1977, when 2 different people reported seeing the Dover Demon in different parts of the town. They both drew sketches of it, and both sketches almost looked identical. I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking he might be real, and if that's the case, I feel bad for you guys who live out there in Massachusetts. Be careful. Sinking its way into our number 1 spot, we have the Kraken. According to the folklore, the Kraken, well, it's a giant sea monster that dwells off the coast of Norway and Greenland.
What's that? Holy moly, what was that? Whoa!
The legend of the Kraken has been around since the 18th century, and apparently sailors who spotted this beast said that it was a giant squid that was so large that when any part of its body was stuck out of the water, it looked like a floating island. But that's not all. Sailors have said that the Kraken would use its large tentacles to engulf ships and drag them down into the icy water. This monster is also known to cause a deadly whirlpool just by submerging itself underwater. Paleontologists have argued that during the prehistoric times, the ocean was once home to 100-foot long squids, and they would feed on whale-sized animals. So could the Kraken actually be real? Well, you know what? I'll let you guys be the judge of that.